Hello friends, today we will discuss about C# programming some concepts. So today's topic is class. So here is the list. What is class in C#? How to instantiate and initialize class? What is arrays of objects in class? And explain classes with examples. So we will discuss all these topics one by one with examples. So let's begin. First topic we have class. So what is a class? A class in C# is a blueprint for creating objects. It defines fields, data, properties, methods and events that represent the behavior and state of objects. So class is a blueprint for creating any objects. Suppose we create any class in which we provide some fields, constructors and we provide a method. Then all these things are handled in a class. So it is a kind of behavior of that class. It is a kind of blueprint for creating any objects. Think of a class like a template, for example a car, and objects are actual instances, for example Honda and BMW. Suppose a class is a template. You can assume that that is a template. We provide any fields, any methods, any constructor we can provide into that. And if we want to use that template, then we can provide the fields and then we can display all these values and use to our requirements. So here is the syntax of a class. First we have to declare the class with the class keyword, and this is the class name, and then we can provide some fields, means integer, string, any field we can provide, and this is a field name. And next we can provide constructor, parameter less constructor or with the parameters constructor, or if we do not provide any constructor, it will create by default by the compiler. And we can create some methods with the access modifiers and with the return types, and this is the method name. Next we have how to instantiate and initialize class. First one is instantiate, creating an object from a class using new keyword. Suppose if we want to allocate some memory to that particular class, with the new keyword we can provide some values. Means if we want to create an object of a class, then we can use that with the new keyword. So that is the instantiation. And what is the meaning of initialization? Initialization means to assigning values to its fields and properties. If we want to provide some values to that particular fields, then we can provide with initialization. So that is called initialization. Here we have one example of that class. Here we give the class name, that is car, and we provide some fields, a constructor with the parameters and one method. So in this way we can instantiate and initialize the values. So let's see this one in Visual Studio. First we can see how to create a class. Car. Okay, so in this way with the class keyword we can use that or create any class, and here is the class name. We can provide any name according to our requirements. Here we can provide some fields for this one. Public, integer, car model. Okay, then we can use the string car name. So these two fields we provide into that class. Suppose if we want to create a constructor into this one, so in this way we can create the constructor. But here is the one thing, whenever we want to create a constructor, the name should be same, the constructor name and the class name, then only we can create any constructor. So this is the parameter less constructor. If we want to provide some parameters, we can provide in this way. Name. And if we want to provide values which are coming through the constructor, and in this way we can provide. And if we want to provide that name, then we can provide in this way. And if a need arises where we have to create one method, so how we can create it? In this way we can create the method also. Display car info. And if we want to display the data, then we can do in this way. So we created one class with some fields, with one constructor and with one method. Constructor with parameters. Next we created method in a class. So how we can use that? So this is a kind of template, means class is a template, means a blueprint. When we create means initialize or instantiate this class into objects, then we can use that. So how we can instantiate and initialize values? First we have to use the class name, model, and with the new keyword we can allocate some memory. And if we want to do that, so here we provided the constructor with the parameter, so we have to provide some values into this one. Okay, so if we want to display this data, the method we created, we can display through them. So let's run this one. So here we have the result, means we provided car model and car name, so it displays into this terminal window. So in this way we can use the constructor with parameters. Suppose if we do not want to use this, then we can comment this one. So here is no need to define any values directly. So now how we can define the values to these fields? There are two ways. We can define in this way and in this way. Okay, now let's see it will give an output or not. So here we have the fields values. So in this way we can directly provide the values to the fields we put into that class template or class model, you can say. And if we do not want to do in this way, next we have any other way to do this one? Yes, of course we have the other way. Here we can put the values. Okay, one by one we can initialize the values, that model name and then properties name. Now let's see this one. So we have the same values as it is. So in this way we directly provide the values, or if we do not want to do this while instantiate, we can provide directly values in with the curly braces. So there are two ways to do that. And if we want to provide that values through the constructor, so we have to create the constructor and then we can provide the values. So this is all about the class keyword, means class model, class template. So if we want to use this one, we can create or allocate some memory while creating the objects, then we can assign some values. So if we want to display this one, we can call this method. Next we have arrays of objects. Last we read about means if we only have single objects, so in that way we can use that one. Yes, suppose we have a multiple number of rows and we want to use that multiple number of rows with that our particular class model. So how we can do that? Then we can implement the arrays of objects into that class model. We can also create arrays of class objects. So for multiple number of rows, multiple number of objects, we want to initialize or provide that multiple number of objects, we can use arrays concept with class. So here is the same things, we provide fields, constructor and same method name, and then in this way we can provide multiple number of data. And next if we want to print this one, we know how to do that. We can use for each loop. Now let's see how we can use the arrays of objects into class. Objects. In this way we can use this one. Here we set the size, means two objects we can add, means two number of rows we can add the data. And if we want to add some data, then how we can do that? First we have to instantiate the car model for first indexing, then we can provide some values. In two ways we know, this is the first way, and second way we can provide curly braces. Here we can directly initialize the values while instantiate the objects. Car model and we have to provide the second indexing value, means second object value. Okay, and now how we can display this one, that we have one created method into that class, and then we can create or invoke this one. Okay, now let's see what will be the output. So we have two number of rows, one by one. In this way we can implement multiple number of, means bulk amount of data we can add or initialize. Suppose if we do not want to do in this way one by one, we do not want to do that, then how we can do that? We can use for each loop for this one, for single run. Here we have to use the class car class, then values in car model, dot display. Now let's see this one also. So we have the same result as it is, but the code is different, means in the second way it is more comfortable. Suppose we have 10 number of rows and one by one it is a lengthy code. Then if we want to reduce these number of lines, then we can use for each loop for one line of code. So in this way we can display all the data. Okay, and in second way, this is the first way, means with the curly braces, and this is the second way, one by one, means we can initialize the values. Suppose if we want to use that constructor with parameters, so we can provide the values directly into this constructor, because this is a constructor with parameters. Now we no need of these curly braces. Now let's see this one also. So we have two objects. We directly using the constructor with parameters. So there are total 3 ways we can add the data. With the first one is constructor, we can use second one is the curly braces, and third one is the one by one we can provide the values. So this is all about the arrays of objects in a class. Next we have difference between class and struct. So we already discussed about structure in our last lectures, and today we discussed about class. So let's see the difference between in both these two. First we have features, and then class, and then structure. First one is type. So it supports reference types, means in class it supports only reference types. Structure it have value types. Next one is memory location. So where is the data stored? So class data is stored in heap memory, and structure data is stored in stack memory. Default constructor, it can have explicit parameterless constructor. We can provide constructors, and if we do not provide any constructor, it will create by default default constructor. And it can also have explicit parameterless constructor, but only in C# 10 plus version, not before that. And if we do not provide any constructor, the compiler provides one by default, means default constructor. In next one is inheritance. It supports inheritance. It cannot inherit from another structure or class, but can implement interfaces. Next one is null assignment. It can be null. It cannot be null unless a nullable structure is defined. So what about the performance of a class and structure? It is slightly slower because it stores the data in heap memory, and garbage collection is also used. It is faster for smaller objects stack allocations, because if we have some small number of data, then its speed is faster than class. Use cases where we can use these class and structure. If we have complex number of data, means bulk amount of data, we have complex logics where we have models, services, entities, then we can approach the class. And here in structure, if we have small number of data, means small programs we have where we do not have much larger data as compared to class, then we can approach structure where we have coordinates, points, lightweight objects we have. So this is all about the difference between class and structure. Next we have today's summary. So let's revise what we learned today. First one is class. It is a blueprint for objects. Means class is a like a template which we can use while initializing it, and we can provide some values. Instantiation. To creating an object, we can use a new keyword. Means if we want to allocate some memory, then we can use a new keyword. Initialization means if we want to provide some values to that class properties, then we can initialize it, means assigning values via constructor or properties. There are two ways. Arrays of objects. Multiple objects stored together like a student array, means this is the array name. If we want to add some multiple number of data, then we can approach arrays of objects in class. Means we have 10 number of rows. There is no need to create one single model for each row. That is a lengthy code. So if we want to do that into a single number of line, then we can use arrays concept into class. So this is all about the class concept. You can practice them into your Visual Studio. If you have any query related with these concepts, with these classes, you can mention them into the comment section. So let's wind up today's session. Thanks. See you in the next lecture.